Hello, we're doing a sniper only runs, and it's 4-star snipers only, of course. From these three things, we always want to choose more lives, because that lets us stay alive the longest. The longer we stay alive, the better the chances we get more snipers. The first pick always has to be Pinecone. She's just the only 4-star sniper that can consistently clear all the first two stages. Unfortunately, we get a bit unlucky here and get the imagined debuff, which will make enemies do slightly more damage. Now, this isn't a big deal for any other of the first possible 4 stages, but it matters on this one, because Pinecone will have to take a lot of damage from the archers. Usually she survives with about 200 health and kills everything, but because she takes slightly more damage, she ends up dying a bit sooner. Now, these archers have horrible damage, so the difference is barely noticeable on a shot-to-shot basis, but she'll die right before she kills the last wave. This itself is not critical, that's why we have a bunch of lives and why we got more at the start, so we can survive whatever the game throws at us for as long as possible, until we find more snipers. Most of my runs ended around the 2nd or 3rd floor, when I didn't get any good items or snipers, so I didn't bother with the live recording this time, because it was annoying commentating over the same things. Instead, I finished the run first, and then we're adding the voiceover now. This does come with the benefit that we can edit out all the boring stuff, which we will do later. Now, we have a very particular order of snipers we want that help us deal with stages. The first sniper we'll grab will always be Mei, because she can solo most enemies due to her high attack, and can help Pinecone with very tanky enemies by slowing them in her range. Third sniper after that will always be Ambrio, because her attack becomes so high with a few items she kills almost everything in a few hits. Unfortunately, Pinecone dies here because of the debuff, and we lose 4 lives. However, the game feels kind of sorry about it and decides to give me a relic for free that gives me 6 lives. We then go through the encounters on the stage, since there is no second fight. We get the bear encounter. Hope is irrelevant, it doesn't matter for this run. And we get really lucky here and get the recruitment encounter. We use this to go and grab Mei, and now we have a lot more power. Every second stage can actually be sold, so we don't... On the 2nd floor, all of the stages can be sold easily, even with just Pinecone. So we grab the increased sniper attack, the mines here, go to the 2nd stage. Ideally, we would have liked to have an emergency stage here, because we could do that and not leak anything, but no such luck. So, we go into the stages, quickly clean them up, and move on to the 3rd floor. I'm not going to bother showing the 2nd stages, because basically we just shoot them with Mei and Pinecone and everything dies. Enemies are just too squishy here, which is why I was hoping for an emergency, so we can get some extra value while we have the 2nd sniper so early. We get some ingots, which end up being irrelevant for the run as well, because we never hit another shop until the end. We get 2 lives from the encounter, and we move on to the 2nd fight. This is just the stage where casters and crown slayer spawns. We just have Pinecone shoot the melee enemies, they shoot the casters, and the stage is over. Nothing too interesting. Moving to the 3rd floor now. We get very lucky here and get our 3rd sniper, who will be Ambrio. Now with Ambrio, she can pick off stray enemies, she can kill enemies with low defense, she can help with enemies with high defense too, because of how high her attack is. We get a great item in the transition, which gives us the 0.35 SP gen per second. This lets her skill up all the time, which really helps Pinecone in particular, because she tends to spam her skill. Now there's only one fight here, so there's not much we can do to prepare for it. It's the fight with reduced DP generation. It's not as bad as it looks, because Pinecone's damage is so high thanks to the items we have, that she can mostly stutter everything herself, and buy enough time for Mei and Tabrio to be deployed. The stage itself, unless it's an emergency, is extremely easy, so as long as you can deploy your operators, the stage is basically over. It's only hard if you don't have any good operators that can cover both lanes and you don't have any vanguard. One of those is true for us. But once Umbrio is deployed, there's basically zero risk of anything going through. There's still a chance a civilian might die, depending on how they're out, because sometimes they like to AFK in the top right corner and wait for somebody to kill them. Probably because they rolled badly on their gacha. We put a mine in the back, so because there's a sniper going to land there, and we'd like him to explode and die a horrible death. He explodes and he then gets shot in the face by Umbrio. That's what he deserves for hiding in the back and trying to steal our lives. With that, the stage is almost over. But we get the brilliant civilian who decides to go AFK in the corner and hope to die. He's trying to steal our lives too. Sadly, this isn't the GTA one, so we don't have the option to shoot him. If you ever have any frustrations with civilians dying in stupid ways, just load up the stage GTA 1 and the WoW will give you a therapeutic experience. Somehow that idiot survives, thanks to our sniper's great damage. And we move on to the next stage. Now, there are several stages throughout the run on every floor from here on that can just outright kill us. On this stage, it's the spider farm, where it has a bunch of exploding spiders. The spiders are actually harmless to me. The real risk is the invisible enemies. I simply have no counter to them. Because there's a risk that we may have to fight invisible enemies on the emergency stage later, we take a path that lets us avoid the emergency stage if it's needed. We come to the drinking party and we pay some lives to get another sniper. We get lucky with the sniper, it's not a guarantee. And we get Shirayuki. With Shirayuki we now have a ton of damage, so most of stages will not be any problem. The only stage that are any big risk are some emergency stages, things like the poison haze and invisible enemies. The emergency stage wasn't an invisible enemy, so I decided to take the fight. This stage is actually a bit annoying to do with snipers, because you don't have a second anti-air sniper to kill the dancer. I don't want to have one, they're not that strong outside of this particular scenario, and I'd rather have somebody else. Enemy health is fairly high, but so is their damage, so we managed to keep up throughout the stage. The most dangerous thing about this emergency is to get those boxers that run really fast and do a lot of damage when blocked. We can't block them, but we can only kill them when we have our skills up because of how quickly they run through. We start preparing mines for the dancer, so we can kill them a bit faster. The normal snipers don't do enough damage to be threatening. They're annoying, but they'll just die before their binds break. The boxer comes running through and hits a mine to the face. I should have activated Chirayuki's skill so I could kill him before he hits the second mine. That way we would have had a mine for this one too. And the faster that one dies, the faster the dancer can die. Regardless, I think they would have seen the similar result with Pinecone dying from the dancer's extremely high damage. Most of the archers are gone now, so now we just have to deal with the boxers. Sadly, we no longer have any mines or skills, so our ability to deal with them is limited. Thus, the boxers managed to get through. The third boxer spawns too late and Umbrio can just shoot him at her own convenience. And now we get lucky and we get a duck spawn. We are lucky because we wouldn't have been able to kill the bear. But the duck is much squishier And the slow from Mei hurts it more. It's also not immune to stun, unlike Uber. We activate Umbreon early. There's no point in waiting until the duck comes in closer. It's over skilled already. The duck runs past us, AFKs in the corner, and just gets shot to death by Umbreon.
Mission accomplished.
We get a couple of good items. 15% attack is obviously great in all snipers, and the other one gives us a bit of SP on automated skills. This isn't actually too great, because we don't have spinach or anything like that to really gain value out of Mei, but it might be good in the future. Now we have one of the easiest bosses possible. Basically the gimmick of the stage is that you have tanky enemies spawning in the middle and the boss runs around with his ranged attacks and harasses you. But it's pretty easy because you can just kill the boss, especially with the mines. We just gang up on him and he'll go down in no time. The way the boss works is that he does more damage the longer he shoots. So his initial attack is very weak, barely doing a lot of damage even to a bunch of snipers. With a few shots from Mei and Umbreon he's down, due to our very high damage at this point. And now we just deploy our operators back and wait for the guys in the middle to die. Not much issue with this stage.
Mission accomplished.
We get a 5th sniper, which is extremely lucky. We now have all the snipers we really want. It's great if we get more, Vermeil, Jessica, Meteor, but these are the snipers that do the big damage. So these are the 5 we really wanted. Now from here, we have to consider how to best avoid poison haze stages. So we're always going to choose the path that lets us avoid fights. We'll look at the map, see where we have a fight we can avoid. So if it is a poison haze stage, we can take a different path. We get a fight with Jesselton, like think about it for a second, decide that this should be easy with 5 snipers and go for it. All we really need to do here is make a square on which Umbreon can be deployed. Once Umbreon is down, she can basically shoot everything herself. So we use acid drop to start cleaning those guys up. She dies surprisingly quickly. I expected her to survive for one more hit here, so I didn't really it. That delays our next operators a bit. I'm not sure if Umbreon can kill the hobo at the bottom right, so we deploy Pinecone first to clean up the square. I am comfortable with this because we know this is a very slow stage, so there's plenty of time to set everything up. And now we have Umbreon down, and she can shoot all our problems in the face. We activate her skill and then counter a small problem. The boss on this stage is a massive wimp, so it's the first thing she targets. There's even a non-upgraded hobo on the stage as well, but she still targets the boss first because his defense is so low. However, there's a good solution to this. The boss on this stage is a massive wimp, and he just dies to half an Umbreon skill. Gets respawned into his higher defense form, and now she starts targeting other stuff. Shirayuki uses her long range to clean up pretty much everything at the bottom. Acid drop picks off the one she can't reach. Revenge for the one that killed her earlier. And only now that the first enemies start moving on the stage, Umbreon's Q is back up. We retreat Shirayuki to get the DP back before she dies. And then we just deploy Pinecone to stall them for a bit. She can take a few hits. And with that all the normal enemies are cleared, so now we're just waiting on the boss. There's quite a bit of time left before he actually moves, so we just deploy our snipers back up, he walks into them, and the stage is over. As always, Jesselton is a wimp. I feel like the other 2 snipers were not even needed, he would have just died to Umbreon. We get a fairly useless item for us, because we don't have enough operators to use or deploy slots in the first place. Now, the higher stage is harder, the lower stage is easier. Of course, since it's an emergency. The lower requires just requires good anti-air, so it's basically a free win. But the lower path forces us to take a fight later, and we don't know if that's a poison stage. So with that in mind, we take the higher fight. So in case the bottom one is a poison stage, we have the option to avoid it. DP is very tight, so I'm not sure what the best order to deploy my stuff is in. I have a lot of attack buffs, so even high defense levels won't last long. So I decided that Pinecone and May is the best start, since they can quickly kill all the trash mobs that spawn at the start, and then focus on a big enemy if there is one. Next, we will deploy Ambrio to clean up the 3 drones. She's an obvious choice for this, she can face backwards and still attack forward. We're not going to deploy the mines early, because they cost a lot of DP, and I'd rather deploy the operators first. The stage is fairly slow, however, so we didn't have much issues. The first defense crusher spawns before we have any hubs damage, and I thought Acid Drop would be able to kill him, but instead I have an Ambrio and she just shot him, and he died. Because Ambrio has 3000 attack, and the defense crusher does not have 3000 defense for him. I didn't need to activate Acid Drop skill, because Pinecone did so much damage, the defense crusher just died without issue. I was worried about this stage being an emergency, but we ended up not having any trouble at all. If you have sufficiently high damage, then the starting DP you get is enough, so the DP regeneration doesn't hurt you. The drone barely does any damage to Pinecone, and then the stage is over. Might as well plant the mines, while waiting around for the enemies to come. Acid Drop never got to use her skill on this stage.
Mission accomplished.
Enemies were too weak for it. Slightly reducing enemy attack is decent. It may make a sniper take one more hit to die at some point, which could be useful. We get another encounter here, a lucky one, where we get an early stage for it. Of course we choose to simp, because there's a free item in it, and the recruit. Why wouldn't we do that? I make a slight mistake at the start here. I placed the mine on the right hobo. I should have placed it on the left hobo at this timing, because the mine will explode before he starts moving. If I wanted to place it on the right hobo, I should have held the mine for about 15 seconds longer or so that the left hobo will be on the tile when it explodes. Because of this mistake, we did one enemy. But apart from that, the stage is cleared very quickly, and we get our items without touching.
Mission accomplished.
The item itself is useless, and we don't get a sniper recruit. We get slightly increased stats for the next fight. Now we have 2 of the harder fights on floor 4. Either the chapter 9 enemies, where we only have 3 ranged tiles, or a stage with a bunch of explosives on it. I consider for a bit which stage would be safer to do, because both look very dangerous. I decided to do the stage with the exploding spiders and exploding everything, simply because it has less enemies. So if I fuck up and die, I have a higher chance of surviving, because I will probably kill enough enemies first to leak less than 14 enemies. We bait the first shots with Acid Drop, because we'll be redeploying her later, and May is not moving from this tile. May can basically solo all the spiders, so we just need to deal with the other enemies with the rest of our operators. Ambrio picks up all of the bazookas. Next, we deploy Shiryuki, so she can help with the anti-air. If both her and Mei shoot at the drone, it will die before it gets into range. However, the first drone on the map has no such luck, because Ambrio S2 is still active, so she just shoots it twice, and the drone is no more. Then we deploy Acid Drop and prepare for the Rat. Now, I'm not sure exactly when the Rat King is supposed to spawn on this stage, I don't know it well enough, so I just start throwing mines randomly and hope to hit him. As one can predict, a spider ends up eating the first mine, because I have no idea when he's coming. We just replace the mine when that happens. I could look it up if I really wanted to, but that's kind of boring to do in the middle of a run, in my opinion, so I just play with the knowledge that they have. With the mine and Acid Drop, the Rat takes a bunch of damage, but just barely survives. Pinecone comes in to finish the job, and gets him wiped out with her fire attack. There's only a few spiders left, and after that we have the final wave, consisting of 4 bazookas and 1 exploding drone. We leave Pinecone in position, so she can tank a few shots from the bazookas. Precast Ambrio S2, so she's ready to shoot as soon as something spawns. Pinecone can survive a shot from this, so we're waiting for the second one. After it's fired, we retreat. And because Ambrio one-shots the bazookas, everything gets slaughtered without issue. While I'm wondering what to do with Acid Drop, everything just dies to Ambrio. And the stage is over, without too much issue. We get some more ingots, which we have no use for, and we move on to the 5th stage. The item we get here is Offensive SP gain on auto skills. This is pretty good on normal stages, it buffs me a little bit. Now I have a choice between a shop and a rat gacha. I'd rather go for the rat gacha. There is the risk I won't get the rat gacha, but in the same way there's a risk with the shop that I won't get good items, because a lot of items I can get are just not relevant to me. If I get books that buff casters, books that buff defenders, they don't do anything for me. So because of that, I'd rather go for the rat, because with so much hope, it will give me many lives. Now here, I was wandering between the encounter and taking this stage. This stage is fairly dangerous, but the logic I'm using to take this stage is the same as I used last time. We have a combat node on the next stage, and it might be a poison node. If it's a poison node, it will kill me, so I have to avoid it. Because of this, I take the fight to let me go onto a path that lets me avoid combat nodes. We very slowly start waking up the casters and using one sniper to pick them off. Since they target 2 enemies, as long as there's only one sniper in range, we deny most of their damage. We wait until this guy is woken up before we deploy any other operators. Once he's down, we deploy 2 operators to tank for Mei. Now, I meant to point Ambrio up. For some reason I pointed her directly at the caster. That was a brain fart on my part. And now I just end up losing 2 operators to that. This is not critical, because we get them redeployed. I can basically solo her name. Though we did waste a mine as well. We deploy Shiryuki in a way that she can target both lanes. In retrospect, I don't like this deployment, because enemies on this stage have fairly high res, since they're circus, so her arts damage isn't that useful. I would have been better off using Shiryuki as bait for the casters at the end, instead of Acid Drop. Mei will be the bait for the bottom caster, because she's already on low health. Shiryuki should have been on the tile I'm going to place Acid Drop on, in my opinion. We'll pay for that mistake in a bit. For now, we're just cleaning the small exits for the final one. We know Acid Drop will die on that tile, so we activate the skill before the final wave and start cleaning stuff up. Now I held off on Ambrio's Q here. I should have just cast it. It would have lasted until the end of the fight, so the sooner I kill these enemies, the sooner Shiryuki can focus on other ones. Pinecone handles turrets easily, and Dambrio picks off most of the enemies. However, we decounter Guard because we sacrificed the wrong unit. Umbrio just barely wins her duel with the caster, so we're down on life. Ideally, we want as many lives as possible because we're going to leak a bunch on Phantom stage. Now, after having cleared this stage, we don't get any more snipers, but we have a choice to avoid the poison stage at the bottom. However, it isn't the poison stage at all, it's actually the easiest stage on the 5th floor. I consider once again whether I want the shop or the rat gacha, and I decide to go for the rat gacha again. Now, I won't bother showing this stage because it's pretty simple. You just point ranged operators on the left and you win. That's how it happens. It was very uneventful. I'm checking if I can get a better performance, something that buffs attack for example, no such luck, and no 6 sniper. We go through the safe house, which gives 5 extra lives, another benefit of going down this path. And then we try the rat gacha, and they're betrayed. We get this event again, the one we had earlier. We are not willing to sacrifice any lives, so we simply skip it and leave with nothing. We now get the frost stage. This stage is fairly simple. You just, especially if you have something like May's one, which can catch the first enemies. With Umbrio, she can pick off the annoying targets later, so we just deploy our operators and clean up everything fairly easily. We have the damage that the enemies just can't keep up. This stage is only dangerous if you're relying on melee operators as your main DPS and they end up getting frozen a lot. But if most of your damage is ranged, or all of it in this case, then the frost mechanic is just irrelevant. And then you have a simple free win stage. Because none of your operators will get frozen. Umbrio can pick up all the spiders, but even if she didn't, they would just die to their operators. There's not that much range damage in the first place, so we're not afraid of our operators getting hit. We don't need to conserve their health much. Umbrio even picks off the drones in one shot. And then prioritizes the wolves and the spiders. On the final waves there's a few weaves, but they'll die easily. We put down the mines, waiting for them to come. The drone gets slowed by Mei, so even without Umbrio's skill on, it still dies before it gets into range. Umbrio shoots the casters, and the weaves die to the mines. An easy stage, we don't gain anything useful for it. We try to get the free item and we get plus for hope right before Phantom. Wonderful. Before we go into the Phantom fight, we change Mei S1 to Mei S2. This is because we don't have anything like the spinach, which buffs Mei S1 damage, and we don't have the attack speed to permanently slow with her S1. So we want her S2 to get a better slow off on Phantom, so we can kill him at the end. We deploy Acid Drop first, because she's the only one who can catch the wolves easily. Well, Mei can do it too, but she has another drop, she has to kill all the dancers. We activate Acid Drop skill, so she doesn't need to multiple wolves start coming. This buys us enough time to deploy all of our other operators, and that prevents a bunch of early peaks. Mei and Umbrio focus down the dancers, while Umbrio helps a bit with the wolves, when needed. We have no hope of killing any of the defenders, Technically we can do it if we focus our operators on it, but we need to kill other stuff. They only cost 1 life, same as anything else, so there's no point in focusing on killing defenders to the detriment of leaking the rest. There's only a few ranged enemies other than the dancers in this stage, but they're all really dangerous. They target two people at once and they do a lot of damage. I'll try to place mines for the ranged enemies, so I can get them to explode and not do too much damage. May and Andrew successfully cleaned all the dancers. So now we're waiting for Phantoms down. Unfortunately I missed the mine on the ranged dude, and because of that we take a bunch of damage. There's one more ranged guy coming from there, so we put down another mine, hoping to catch me. And we place another mine for Phantom. The way I used the mines here was very poor. We ended up wasting a bunch of mines. Unfortunately, the ranged guy shoots 2 of my operators right before the mine goes in, so we have no damage for Phantom. I was hoping to bait Phantom's range attack with the mine with Pinecone, so acid drop can damage him under the mine, but we had no such luck. So we changed Pinecone's position to just cleaning up some basic enemies, and then we wait for Phantom to move around the map. Most of the enemies on the stage are dead, so we just need to make sure we don't leak 16 more enemies, and then we're hoping to kill Phantom. At this point we retreat everything, acid drop is back up, and we're now preparing to kill Phantom on the square where he AFKs, with May S2 and acid drop S2. One of the dancers came through here before Phantom reached the block, so we use acid drop S2 to shoot immediately. We leak a few enemies here and there, but that's what we have a bunch of lives, so we can live with it. Put Andrew towards the dancer path, because we need to protect these tiles, otherwise we don't have enough range tiles in the first place. Phantom shadows have a dodge as well, which is very annoying. We set up all of our operators to fight Phantom. There's no good tile for Pinecone, so we put her in the back so she can charge her turn later. She also tanks shots for Umbreon, so Umbreon can keep it. We activate Shiryuki's skill, acid drop skill, and drop every bit of DPS we have on Phantom. We're waiting for him to walk a bit forward, so Pinecone can do some free damage. And Phantom dies. With that, the stage is cleared. With 5 4-star snipers, IS2 has been cleared.